Dear Melissa, what are some of the decision points in a buy or integrate versus build situation? I'm working with a product that wants to incorporate asset management features. There seem to be many good solutions out there already, ready to go. So, what are the steps to assess this? Building versus buying is a really important decision for product managers. So, I'm very happy that you asked this. Now, when you're thinking about building versus buying, the first and most important question that you want to think about is, will this new feature set or the thing that you're buying be delivering on the core value proposition for your product? So, for example, if you are delivering a SaaS product that helps people do market research, is it a market research function? Is it the knowledge behind it? Is this the core value proposition that they're actually buying? That's what you want to assess. Now, if the answer is yes, that's worrisome. You don't want a third party software being the main delivery of your value because they can be in control of all the software and all the changes and whether they fix bugs or not. And then you're beholden to that. So if all your value is kind of tied up into somebody's third party software, that's a little worrisome. That's a lot of risk for your organization. But if you answered no and you decided, hey, this isn't our core value proposition, this is more adjacent, it's something that enhances, it's definitely something we want, but it's not our core value proposition, then you might want to consider buying or integrating with somebody. So think about that first. And the way that you could think about it as well is saying that we want to spend our hard development hours on things that are going to help us innovate to deliver that core value proposition, right? Like that's where you want to keep your budget. So, in adjacent products or things that are maybe supplemental to that value proposition, that's where we're going to look at buying or integrating. It makes it more powerful, but it doesn't tie up all of our value in somebody else's third party application. One thing to look at is, does this product do everything that you need? And think about it as well from a short term perspective versus a long term perspective. So if you're going to buy a product, does it have all the features you need ready to go? Will you have to do any kind of custom software for it? Like, will you have to build onto it with your developers? How easy is it to integrate? Will it actually involve any developer capacity? And then you want to think about that over time. So, is it good for right now? What about in 3 years? What about in 4 years? Now, there's a lot of good benefits to buying something to get it out to market faster in the short term, knowing that you're going to innovate or build your own later. So that might be a strategy or a plan. So buying things can help you realize that value, sign people up fast, especially if they've been asking for it. So consider, is this a long-term plan or a short-term plan? If it's a short-term plan, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles you want, but it's going to get you to market and you do have a plan to actually build your own on the back end, eventually do that, right? Like that's a very good technique. If it doesn't have everything that you need and it will be selling your value short, maybe you shouldn't buy or integrate. Maybe you should actually look at building your own. Another thing to look at is cost. So cost is a really big factor as well. How much does it cost to keep this integrated? And are customers willing to pay you enough to make that value worth it? So if you are integrating or if you're buying a software, and especially if it's on like a subscription basis, you can think of AWS, a great example of build versus buy. People don't like to build their own databases, they pay for AWS. Now you have to think about in the cloud, the hosted costs, right? That's also a buy decision. That's not a roll your own decisions. Does that outweigh the costs of us actually building it and the price that we would be getting for our customers? So take into account how much it will cost and what it will look like over the long term and how that cuts into your profit margins. So I would really look at those things. Does it focus on your core value proposition or is it adjacent? In adjacencies, that's really good. I worked with a healthcare company once that had a main value proposition of being an EHR service, so an electronic health record system. And they also had things for like payroll and for HR on the back end that they had built themselves. And they found that a lot of people were not actually using them. And there wasn't enough development resources to go around to actually concentrate on that and focus on shoring up the value proposition of the core. So they decided to buy the HR and the payroll systems to help make a complete package so people wouldn't be turning to other packages, but they knew that wasn't what people were coming to them for. That's not what the customers were coming to them for. So in this case, it's a solved problem already. HR and payroll has been done a million times before. It's not where they want to spend their money innovating. It's an adjacency, it's not the core value proposition. The timing piece as well that we talked about gets them to market faster, make sure that people are happy. And then also the cost was enough to justify the price that they were charging for the whole product. So that's really the things that I would look at. And I hope that helps you on your build versus buy journey.